Welcome to Notes on Nature TV. I'm Jamie.
And hello, my name is Samuel.
And in this episode, we'll be reflecting on your Big Garden Birdwatch weekend. What a weekend it was.
We will indeed, and we'll also be looking at your wildlife photos with Deborah Meaden.
And we'll be celebrating the first signs of spring.
But now first, can we talk about the elephant in the room here, Jamie? Big Garden Birdwatch. What an amazing weekend. Always one of our favourites, but it looks like this could be a big one, couldn't it?
It certainly does feel like a big one. For myself, it was a bit of a mixed bag. The grey wagtail that we were expecting to see, this is a bird that spends all day, every day on our lawn, did not turn up until 2 minutes after the counter finished. However, we did get a blue tip, which is a rare sighting here. How did yours go?
Yeah, I think that's always the way, isn't it, with Big Garden Birdwatch? As soon as it comes, as soon as it arrives for that weekend, all the birds seem to hide, disappear. I had a similar thing. We did have about 3 long-tailed tits going backwards and forwards across the garden. Not a whole lot else, but it was nice to watch those for my hour.
Yeah, nice. Good to have long-tailed tits. I've not managed to get that yet. So hopefully next year, if I can get a few more trees and shrubs getting a bit bigger in the garden, we might get some of those smaller birds in. Now, let's have a look at some of the things that you were doing during Big Garden Birdwatch. This picture is of Ella, age 9, and Savannah, age 6. Look at the impressive setup they've got there. I mean, this is like a proper little bird watching hide, isn't it?
Yeah, I absolutely love this one here. It's just exactly what it's about. Set it up, get all your books out, all your information ready. It's a really, really nice one. We also had this photo sent in from Adrian Mosley. So Adrian's a member of the Harrogate local RSPB group. And he snapped this beautiful greenfinch on his feeder, which is just, you really see the colours there of the greenfinch. He also sent through another photo of a blackbird on a feeder. Now, this is actually quite unusual, isn't it, Jamie, to see a blackbird on a feeder?
Yeah, I've only ever seen them on the lawn, on the ground. So there must have been something really tempting in that feeder to draw that blackbird in. Now, Jan Brown saw this pied wagtail, and I'm just zooming in on it here because I love the colours. What a beautiful shot this is.
Yeah, I always think wagtails say exactly what they say on the tin, don't they? As they jump around the garden, just bobbing their tail up and down constantly.
We've got a bit of a surprise one here, haven't we? I don't know if this was during Big Garden Birdwatch, but this is quite a rare bird. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so this photo, or video rather, was sent in by Heather Moga in Stornoway. So with this one, she said, today we watched Notes on Nature during the Big Garden Birdwatch Live, which sort of took part for the first time this year, as we know. And she actually managed to capture this turtle dove. In this video as well, you can really see the size difference between the turtle dove and the wood pigeon. And they are just a stunning species of that dove family that you and Kabir spoke about on Sunday with the live Notes on Nature. And they do, if you do get a chance to see one up close, which is tricky, you know, they have seen really sharp declines in the UK, but they do have this almost zebra print on their neck, which is kind of like them bringing a little bit of Africa back with them, isn't it?
It really is. And what I found fascinating about this clip is, as you say, bringing back a bit of Africa. This is a bird that should be in Africa. And yet Heather has got it there in Stornoway, way up north in the Western Isles. And she also adds that you might be interested to know that here in December 2020, on 3 separate days, this bird visited the garden. She reported it to Operation Turtle Dove, which is the conservation project that we're part of, and also to their local RSPB recorder, who told them that there'd actually been another report of a turtle dove in a Stornoway garden in December, and also one back in February 2019. So very, very odd. I mean, this bird is clearly quite lost, isn't it? I don't know if it's the same bird that's going completely the wrong way every year on migration.
Yeah, not really sure what's going on there. It'll be interesting to sort of keep an eye on it over the years to come as well, just to see what's going on. But maybe it's just got those migration techniques upside down at the moment or something.
Poor thing. Hopefully it's finding plenty to eat in people's gardens. People are generously putting out plenty of seed for it. Now, this next one, this is another bird in Scotland, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Now, for those of you that joined us for Big Garden Birdwatch Live, you would have heard us all weekend speaking about this bird, hoping and waiting for it to arrive. And in true wildlife fashion, up until pretty much the very last live episode We ended and we started just playing the live cameras. And then guess who shows up? The crested tit, the little punk rocker of the small bird world. We absolutely love this species. It was a very fleeting visit though, but it did stick around a little bit longer. I'm not sure if you managed to catch it, Jamie. It was in and out.
No, they're very fast, aren't they, crested tits? As are coal tits, because I was watching the coal tits on the live camera as well, and they don't stick around.
No, they don't. They are sort of just in, out, very, very quick. It's quite hard when you're doing your Big Garden Birdwatch count as well to count how many that actually is, because it's, yeah, hard to keep track of.
Well, back to some of the ways that you took part in Big Garden Birdwatch this weekend. And this is Kimberly Cook, who says, I fully embraced my hour this weekend. Loved it. So many beautiful little feathered bundles of joy to see. A definite little hobby now. And yeah, and certainly an interesting birdwatching technique there.
Yeah, it's a new one, that's for sure. I think this is what we love so much about this weekend is it's not about sitting out in a hide, 5 o'clock in the morning, freezing cold. You can wear what you like. You can go in pajamas. You can wear a chicken costume. You can dress up, dress down. Doesn't really matter. It's just about sort of spending that hour watching wildlife in your own garden.
It is. The data is really, really important, and do keep sending your results in, and we'll give you some details on that a little bit later. But also the enjoyment, I think it's so important that this is something that you can take part in and revel in it. This is a highlight of the weekend, a highlight of the month, perhaps. A really, really lovely, relaxing time spent by the window looking at your local wildlife. Now, talking of relaxing, Claire Penny had a interesting technique, didn't she, for taking part in Big Garden Birdwatch?
She did indeed. So Claire sent us in this lovely sort of written message that she'd written from us from her experiences from Big Garden Birdwatch. So we'll just read you a few of the highlights from that now. So Claire said that she has always fed the birds in kind of a haphazard way, but was motivated by the end of the month RSPB bird count, the cold weather, and yes, lockdown. It took a whole new level of bird watching. So she said that my bed is opposite the window and the curtains never drawn. I go down to make a cup of tea and then back with it to my warm bed to watch the drama unfold in comfort. The robin is the first to appear. He or she makes straight for the tray with a seed mix and robin heaven mealworms. Then finally comes the tit family. Blue, great coal tits. They ignore the peanuts and go straight for the sunflower hearts in the grab and go transparent dish. Bang, crash, clatter, the stock doves have arrived. They have been waiting from the mature beech trees beyond. Everything else retreats to the pear tree. The first rays of morning sun catches the iridescent mauve and the turquoise patch on its neck. Wow. And that is just perfect summing up there of how your Big Garden Birdwatch goes. And what I really love about that is you can really imagine the stock doves just arriving, crashing in, sending everything off. But also, I think that's sometimes where our opinion ends with those species, and actually focusing on that iridescent colour that you get on the neck in certain lights is a really nice little highlight of that species.
It is, and I think with those, the turtle doves we talked about earlier, there's so much more to the dove and pigeon family than you might think. It's not just a pigeon. There's so much to these birds and their lives and their different behaviour. Fascinating things. Do keep sending us your Big Garden Birdwatch counts. You've got until the 19th of February. Get them into us at rspb.org.uk/birdwatch, please. And we will go away. We will look through all the data over the next month or so, and we'll be letting you know the results probably around early April. And you can read all about it in our members magazine, Nature's Home, which comes out every quarter. If you don't get the magazine, if you're not a member, you can join at rspb.org.uk/join.
Now, each week on Notes on Nature TV, we dive into your wonderful photos that you send in to us. And this week we are joined by a special guest, Deborah Meaden.
Hello, Deborah. Welcome to Notes on Nature for the RSPB's Big Garden Birdwatch.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Quite all right. Now we have got a little lineup of stunning garden bird photos that our readers and viewers have sent in, and I thought we'd just have a look through them today and we'll have a chat about each one. So I'm going to go with the blackbird first, but there is this stunning photo for blackbird. It looks like it's eating some berries there. It's a really striking picture. Do you get many blackbirds down where you are in the southwest?
We've actually got a lot of blackbirds. Do you know, we've actually got a lot of birds now. We stopped cutting our hedges about 5 years ago, and there was a remarkable difference to the amount of bird life. And blackbirds are all over our property, which is lovely, you know, lovely.
And you get the special kind of bonus of them singing as well, don't you? As a reward for providing them with somewhere safe to nest.
Well, they're lovely. And I love it, particularly when, you know, well, I'm never up at dawn, but at dusk, they're always really busy at dusk, aren't they? They're always flitting around and making a noise and saying, I'm going to bed, you know. So, no, they're lovely. They're lovely birds.
You've reminded me, actually, there is something called the dusk chorus, which is less strong than the traditional dawn chorus, but you do get birds singing into the evening, and the blackbird is one of those, because as those big eyes, they can operate in sort of low light conditions. So that's why they're usually the first to sing in the morning, and probably the last to sing at dusk, unless you're lucky enough to have nightingales popping around in the hedges as well. But that one there, I think, is munching a hawthorn berry. I don't know if you've got any good berry bushes in your hedges, have you?
Well, we have, and because we don't cut the hedges, you know, they're absolutely full of berry. They're beginning to run low now. But yeah, and I love a blackbird because they don't bother chewing, really, do they? They just berry and swallow it whole.
They do. And actually that berry crop is so important, and we really do notice when we do big garden bird watch at the end of January that, and also if you get like a severe weather event in February, if the berries have run out in the bushes in the countryside, then that's when you really do get a massive influx into gardens.
Yeah.
So a favourite bird there, that one. I'm going to go for the other berry-eating bird photo that we've got here, which is a redwing. Now, I'm hoping that you get some of these on your garden, on your hedges as well.
Well, we do. I didn't know we did, because I thought they were a thrush, and it wasn't until I went out with the fantastic Stephen Moss, who said, no, they look really like thrushes. They've just got this red flash, and I thought, we've got redwing. Often we get fieldfare. We get them amongst the flocks of fieldfare. Would that be right?
Yeah, they do travel in mixed flocks. So we get a mixture of redwings coming to the UK. I have seen them during summertime in Iceland, and they're almost like blackbirds. They hop around by your feet. But they also come from Scandinavia, fieldfares, I think, chiefly Scandinavia. And they are going to be eating the same kind of food. So they'll be munching the berries, but also if you get a kind of a mild part of the winter, and you've got some playing fields, you've got some fields where the grass is quite short, they will go around and probe for worms and things as well.
Well, they're fantastic, because they actually go into, we've got horses in fields around us, and they actually go there, and I think they're what scatters all of the horse poo all over the fields, which is great. It's really, really good for the grass. It's good.
Yeah, well, they'll be flicking through it, won't they? Obviously looking for sort of beetles and worms. Another thing that's just occurred to me, you said you go out at dusk, and that's when you hear birdsong. If you go out and it's just getting dark, that is when redwings do move around, because at night they do roam a little bit, because they're moving through the countryside. They're looking for new sources of food, and when they fly overhead, there's a really distinctive sound. It's like a seep, 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 seep kind of call.
Oh, okay.
So listen out for that, especially if it's just got dark when you go out. And that's a little nocturnal call that they make to each other to say, oh, I'm going this way, follow me, kind of thing.
I will listen out for it.
So that's two birds you've definitely got down there. So lucky to have redwings. I just think they're stunning birds. And also you said the red patch, but there's also the other difference between redwings and the more traditional songthrush is that there's like a creamy coloured stripe over the eye. I don't know if you can see that in the photo, but that's another good way to tell them apart. Yeah,
but you've got to be the red's easy to see, you know, there's a red flash on that thrush, that isn't it? But you know, you sound to be like the person who can say, yeah, well, it's a slightly longer line above you.
Yeah, the red is the giveaway. That's why it's called the redwing. Yeah. So another photo that we've been sent, which I think looks absolutely stunning, is there's a blue tit on a snowy twig by Deborah McPhail, and this is just beautiful, isn't it? What a cute photo.
It's lovely. Photos like that make me really appreciate what these birds have to do to survive in the winter. You know, I mean, they're so tiny. And there he is standing gallantly on his twig. You know, I'm going to take on the world. I think it's a lovely photo.
It is, and he's fluffed up slightly there. You can see he's looking a little bit like he's suffering from the weather, or he or she. It's hard to, you can't tell with blue tits from a distance. Unlike a lot of the other birds that we see, blue tit male and females are pretty much identical. I'm sure someone like Stephen Moss will point that out. There's some subtle difference, but you probably have to get really close. But yeah, lovely little things. And these are birds that will come quite close to you. They'll get onto the bird feeders. You can watch them from your window. I'm guessing you've got some sort of bird feeder set up where you are.
Some, I've actually had to limit it because my husband's taken over. It was one tree full, and now we've got 4 trees full of it's Bird City. So yes, we have. But I'm really careful about that because I quite like the fact that they're using the hedges around us as well. You know, I don't just want them relying on us for food. You know, I want to make sure that they've got plenty of options, because if we're not here, I mean, we're here at the moment, but if we're not here, obviously who feeds them?
That's a really good point, and people do worry about that if you go away on holiday or something, what happens to those birds? And the natural instinct should still be there, and what you've done by providing those hedges is you've given them somewhere brilliant to live. Now I am going to pick the next one, which I think is going to be that's the dunnock, or the hedge sparrow. Talking about hedges, this is something that will be rootling around in the leaf litter underneath, and a favourite of many people, I think, because it's got an interesting life, it's got a pretty little song, and they're quite easy to see, aren't they?
Well, they are. I mean, it took me quite a while to understand. Well, I didn't even know there was a difference between house sparrows and hedge sparrows. But the behaviour is so different, and the noise we've got a lovely, what's it called? There's a lovely fragrant bush at this time of the year outside of our kitchen window, and at certain times it is just the noise coming from it is unbelievable. You know, it's they're just so busy and so noisy, and they've got so much to say, and then they go. You know, that's the bit I love. It's just like, wah, 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 wah. Right, we're off.
You're right, they don't stop, and when you see them, they look really nervous, and they're sort of constantly tails flicking, they're sort of bouncing around, they're very wary, but they're very pretty, and the main way to tell the difference, and again you do need to be able to have them within sight quite clearly, is that beak. So it's a really thin pointy beak. That's an insect eating beak, as opposed to the bigger thick beak of the sparrow. But yeah, gorgeous little things. We've got one final photo, which is another really, really cute one, isn't it? This is the long-tailed tits. What do you make of this one?
I love a long-tailed tit. They look somehow oriental to me, you know, when they're in the summer, when they're not all fluffed up like this. They've got beautiful, it's like a painting, that, you know, the lines and the colors on them. But actually this little guy looks like, no, I'm ready for winter. I can puff myself up. You can throw whatever weather you want at me. I can deal with it. You know, it doesn't look all warm and cozy.
It does. He looks almost spherical. If it wasn't for that tail, that's just a little ball, isn't it? I think of them as like little flying lollipops, because it's just, the tail's amazing. And the other thing that I love about long-tailed tits is that you never just get one. You always get, there's always extra. So you might see 2 or 3, and then they'll move through the bushes, and there'll be like another 5 come along, and they really hang out in big sort of family flocks, don't they, in the winter?
They do. We've actually seen less this year. I don't know if that's a general thing, but we've certainly seen less long-tailed. You know, we used to regularly see them. Now it's like, oh, there's a long-tailed tit. Well, you know, there's a few long-tailed tits. So I don't know what's happened to them, but no, we definitely saw less this winter. That's
an interesting one, because I think that a lot of these smaller birds, the goldcrest, the long-tailed tits, the ones that do eat a fair bit of insects in their diet, but are also quite tiny, harsh winters can knock them back a bit. They can affect the populations. And it's only in the last few decades, I think, that long-tailed tit is featured in the top 10 of the Big Garden Birdwatch results, and last year it was in at number 9. So a good year, a nice mild winter will boost the numbers a little bit. So let's hope that it doesn't get too chilly, and those numbers can bounce back where you are.
Let's hope so.
I'm going to ask you one final question since I've got you here, Deborah. What's your favourite garden bird? Have you got a favourite? I mean, we've looked at a few lovely ones today, but have you got a top one that when you go out and you see it, you think that's made my day?
Oh, I love the one I'm with. You know, it's if I was looking at a robin now, I'd say it was a robin. We actually have the murmurations. You know, we have the starlings fly over our house, and I think a starling, people don't like I love starlings. They're beautiful birds. So I like the underdog, you know, and I kind of like, I like a starling because people kind of take them for granted. Say, I like a starling. But then we've got little owls. A little owl is gorgeous. So no, I love the one I'm with. I could give you 27 favorite birds.
That's brilliant. I think, yeah, I mean, that you picked some good ones there. They're the ones that came to mind first. I think are really, really good choices. Deborah, thank you so much. That's been brilliant. And hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Oh, thank you very much. I could talk birds all day of the week.
Thank you. That was great fun going through those with Deborah. Now you can send us all your lovely wildlife photos and videos to notesonnature@rspb.org.uk.
Now, down where I am on the south coast in Dorset, I do always joke that it is tropical all year round, but it's not the case. It's still pretty cold at the moment. However, we have been seeing the first signs of spring here and there dotting up. One of those for me are catkins, in particular the hazel catkins at the moment. So the hazel catkins you can see them in January to March, and these are kind of like drooping flowers that hang off the plant. Now, what's amazing as well about the hazel plant is a fancy word for you. They are monoecious. So they have the male and female parts on the same plant. So the male is that cluster of flowers. There's so many flowers, they've got to produce as much pollen as possible. The female part is this tiny, tiny little red flower hidden on the back. You do really have to look hard for them. So when you're out and about at the moment in your local area, do have a look if you do have any hazel plants, because they're a really nice one to see. Have you been seeing anything at all, Jamie? Have you noticed spring starting to show its face?
It is showing its face here. So over in central Bedfordshire, it's pretty chilly. I do have a hazel in the garden and it has got something on it. I need to go and have another look, but I'm pretty sure it's got what you just described. Thinking of some of the other plants, I've got bulbs coming up. And I've noticed with great excitement that the sweet violets that I planted in the garden a couple of years ago, they've sort of expanded their range somewhat. So I'm hoping for a good showing early in the year. But yeah, things are coming through, buds are appearing, some plants are shooting up, some are a little bit more reluctant. Hopefully we don't get any sort of major cold snaps now here. But everything that comes out and certainly shoots from the ground this time of year tends to be quite robust, doesn't it? These plants have evolved to cope with a bit of frost.
They have, yeah, exactly. And it's really nice sort of how you've described there. It is, you start to get an idea of maybe what's going to be showing up for the rest of the year and what you can start looking forward to. So that's some of the things that we can be looking for with the signs of spring. But here's Jenny telling us about something that we need to listen for as well.
It's all looking very wintry at the moment. But there's one sign of spring in this otherwise quiet, dormant landscape. I've just heard a very sure sign that spring is on the way. There it is! That's what I was listening for. A woodpecker drumming. Now that is a great spotted woodpecker. And it's not drilling to make a hole at the moment, but it is announcing its presence. It is claiming its territory. So that come spring, it can find a mate and hopefully have some young. Now you might wonder how a woodpecker drums without getting a headache. Well, they have these very clever design in their head where they have air pockets that kind of cushion the blow and the impact. Now it will be the male that's drumming, so if you do hear that sound, you know there's a male present. They look pretty similar if you do see it, apart from the male has a bit more red on the nape. You might see these guys on your feeders as well, so do keep a lookout.
Now, talking of woodpeckers, we've had this video sent in from Hayley Clark up in Perth. So she said, this male great spotted woodpecker visits my window feeder every day. A great example of the birds that you can attract to your window even if you live in a flat. There's two things that I love about this video. Is one, absolutely spot on. This is a male greater spotted woodpecker. As Jenny just said in the video before, he's got that red patch on the back of his head, whereas the female just has black feathers going the whole way over. And the other thing is, absolutely, it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in a flat, you can have a balcony, a garden. There are always different ways of attracting wildlife to your garden. So do have a think about that. Try and get a feeder on the outside or a little basket of flowers to attract some of the bumblebees and the butterflies as we get into spring and summer as well. So it's a fantastic video. Thank you for that, Hayley.
Now, we were talking about woodpeckers just then, and we've got a very different type of woodpecker for you now. There's a woolen one here. This is a green woodpecker, and after watching our last episode, some of you have been showing us your impressive bird knitting skills. So thank you very much, Helen Wakelam, for this photo.
And here is a stunning knitted blue tit as well, sent in from Mary Kay. I don't know how, I think it's because I don't know how you can make that, that I'm so amazed by these, but both of those were really, really good.
That was fantastic. And we'd love to see more of your birdie crafts. So please do tell us about your work, whether you've knitted a bird or you've built one with Lego or you've painted one on the wall. We would love to see it, and we'll share it with everybody on here. So do send them in to notesonnature@rspb.org.uk.
Now, we hope you've liked this episode of Notes on Nature TV. Remember to like us wherever you're watching this. And if you're on Instagram TV, you can follow along. And if it's on YouTube as well, don't forget to subscribe. You can see all the latest Notes on Nature TV episodes coming out and all the other videos that we've got coming up to get your weekly nature fix.
Thank you very much for watching.